Hey guys, it's Mrs. Bryant. Welcome back to Flipped. Before you get started today, I need you to make sure you press pause and get the papers out you need in order to take notes. Once you have your papers, you can press play and we'll resume. So we have been talking about how to solve equations with variables on both sides, which should have been a review of Level 1, 7th grade. So now we're going to bring in inequalities. There's really no difference in solving inequalities. You just have to make sure you're talking about solutions. Remember, inequalities can be a number that's included or not included, and it can have multiple solutions where something is going to be a true statement or a false statement. So let's go ahead and get started. These first two examples or three examples are not on your sheet, so just go ahead and watch, and I will solve them, and then we will work some together. So, solving equations and inequalities step by step. Remember, the first step is you draw your equal sign down the equation. First is distribute, and there's nothing to distribute because there are no parentheses. So, you're going to combine like terms. And then this and this can be combined also. So, 3x plus 4x is 7x plus 2 equals negative 57 plus 3 would be a negative 54. All right, to continue, you know you need variables on one side and constants on the other. And because my variable is on this side, I want to move this constant. Remember, to move a constant, you take the inverse operation or the opposite of what's happening to it right now. So the opposite or the inverse of positive 2 is a negative 2. If I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other. Remember, draw your equal sign and cancel what you can cancel. So you're left with 7x equals negative 56. To solve, we're going to have divide by 7. So x is going to equal negative 8. Now, let's talk about the inequality. And I'll do that in a different color so you can differentiate between the two types. Again, draw your line where the inequality sign is and do the same thing. 7x plus 2 is greater than or equal to negative 54. Again, move your constant over, so I have 7x is greater than or equal to negative 56. Divide by 7, so your solution set is x can be anything greater than or equal to 8. That means your solution could be 8, it could be 9, it could be 10, it could be 12, it could be 1 million. But you also need to realize that x cannot equal 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Anything less than 8, your solution is not possible. All right, next example. All right, so now you notice one with fractions. Do not freak out about fractions. You know fractions are just a division problem. Division problem. So do exactly the same thing. What is 6x divided by 3? So you're going to get 2x, and then 18 divided by 3 is plus 6 equals negative 24. Now it looks exactly like we know how to solve, so I'm going to take the inverse operation. That's wrong. Negative 6 on both sides. Those cancel, you're left with 2x equals negative 30. So x is going to equal negative 15. So let's do the inequality. It's going to be exactly the same process, except for now you're going to have more than one solution. You distribute the 1/3, so you're dividing by 3. 6x divided by 3 is 2x. And then 1/3 of 18 is plus 6. Your solution has to be greater than negative 24. Take the inverse of positive 6 on both sides. You're left with 2x is greater than negative 30. Divide by 2 on both sides, and you know that x is going to be greater than negative 15. That means negative 14 works, negative 8 works. It also means that negative 16 would not work. And we'll talk about graphing these in just a minute. All right. So I'm going to skip this example No, I'm not. Okay. Distribute, because you have parentheses, so 3 plus 5x minus 15 equals negative 2. This and this can be combined, so I have 5x minus 12 equals negative 2. Plus 12, cancel. 5x equals 10. Divided by 5, so x equals 2. We know everything is going to be the same, so we know that x has to be less than or equal to 2. If you want to write the steps, you can. When we're doing examples together in just a minute, you will write all the steps for inequalities as well. Okay, so the main idea of solving equations and inequalities is isolate the variable. That is the main goal of solving for inequations or inequalities. So now go ahead and get your notes because we will be working these together. Challenge. We are going to solve this problem, both equation and inequality. So let's get started. Very first step, distributive property. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times negative x is minus 4x plus 3x. And then distribute on this side. Negative 2x minus 2. So now our next step is to combine like terms. We know that negative 4x and 3x can go together, so I'm left with 4 minus x is equal to negative 2x minus 2. Now, we know we want our variable to be positive. So, in order to do that, I'm going to move my 2x over, take the inverse. If I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other. So, I'm left with 4 plus x equals negative 2 minus 4 because I want to isolate that variable. So, x is going to be equal to negative 6. All right, so let's do the inequality now. Remember, distribute. 4 minus 4x plus 3x is greater than or equal to negative 2x minus 2. So these can combine like terms, so 4 minus x is greater than or equal to negative 2x minus 2. I want to move my variable over so it's positive. Those cancel. Now we're going to actually do the math. So 2x minus x is plus x is greater than or equal to negative 2. Minus 4 because I want to isolate my variable. X is going to be greater than or equal to negative 6. Now, if we were graphing these, this is what it would look like. Oh, let me go back. So if this is negative 6, negative 7, negative 5, negative 4, we would have a dot right there. Now let's talk about the inequality. Our number sign would look the same, negative 7, negative 6, negative 5, and negative 4. It's going to be a closed circle because of this sign right there. If it did not have that equal to sign, it would be an open circle. And we know that x has to be greater than or equal to negative 6, so we are going to shade our number line to the right because those are the numbers that are greater than negative 6. All right, next example. Negative 5n minus 6n equals 8 minus 8n minus n. Draw your equal sign. There is nothing to distribute, but these can be combined, and so can this. Make sure you only combine on that side of the equation. You cannot combine this and this all at once. They are on opposite sides of the line, so they need to stay on opposite sides of the line until you're ready to isolate your variable. So negative 5 minus 6 is negative 11n equals 8 minus 9n, because 8 plus 1, or minus another one, is negative 9. Now, my variables are already on this side, and there's no constant, so I know I'm going to need to move my variable to this side. Those cancel. Negative 11 plus 9 is negative 2n equals 8. Divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2. N is going to equal negative 4. If we did the number line, negative 5, negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, it's going to be a circle, a closed circle on negative 4. So let's go ahead and do our inequality. And you need to make sure you remember this rule that we're fixing to go over. Draw your line. We know that these can combine to negative 11n is less than or equal to, and we know those can combine. Okay? We know we want to isolate our variable. Our variable's already on this side, so plus 9n plus 9n. I'm left with negative 2n is less than or equal to 8. Now, we are dividing by a negative number. When you multiply or divide by a negative number, you must flip the sign. So what this looks like is n is going to be greater than or equal to negative 4. Notice how my signs flipped because I divided by a negative number. And if we were going to graph this, it's going to be a closed circle because it has the equal sign part of it, or equal to part of it, and your n is greater than negative 4, so we are shading to the right. Make sure you're hitting pause if you're not keeping up with how fast I'm talking. All right, now do the equation inequality. We're going to skip these examples. Those will be your survey. Go down to this last piece. It says you want to organize a group of friends to go to a karaoke studio this Friday night. You must pay $50 to reserve a private karaoke room plus $5 for each person. You also want to have snacks for the group at a cost of $2 per person. How many people can be in the group in order for the total cost to be $65? So let's go ahead and write this. So it's $30 to reserve the room plus $5 per person or each. You also want to have snacks, so that's plus 2x because it's $2 per person. And you know the total is $65. At this point, you solve it. 30 plus 7x equals 65 minus 30 minus 30. 7x equals 35. Divide by 7, divide by 7. X equals 5. So that can invite 5 people. Now, let's talk about the inequality. Same information, $30 to reserve plus $5 for each plus $2 per each. But it says for the total cost to be at most $65. At most means it can cost $59, but it can't cost $66. So your equation will be the same. 30 plus 5x plus 2x has got to be less than or equal to 65. Once you do all the math, x has got to be less than or equal to 5. And when you number line it, it would be a closed circle, and we're going to shade to the left. That's it for Flip Tonight. Make sure you bring your notes to class tomorrow, and make sure you click the video survey link on the website and answer the 2 or 3 questions that I'm leaving. Have a good night, and I'll see you in class tomorrow.